Hello and welcome to Meet Our Makers, an artist interview podcast produced in association with Beats Per Minute. I'm your host, Jeremy J. Facette. On this episode, we get to meet My Brightest Diamond. My Brightest Diamond is the musical pseudonym of singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist Shara Nova. And in this chat, she and I discuss quite a bit about her newest My Brightest Diamond record called Fight the Real Terror. We talk about the conception of this record, what led to this record, which included largely the loss of the great Sinead O'Connor, who was a personal muse for Shara, both musically and politically. We talk about the sparseness, the minimalism, the spontaneity of this record, and some of the themes that fueled it, including sometimes Sinead's own very personal but very political voice that has inspired Shara, again, both personally as well as in her art. We talk about her own journey in activism and using her voice, as well as her time on Broadway in the Sufjan Stevens Illinois show, which is pretty freaking cool if you ask me. I was thrilled to get to speak with her, especially as a longtime fan, and also at this juncture in her career where she's making some of her most personal and most raw music yet. So thank you for listening. This is me meeting My Brightest Diamond.
I'm well, thank you.
Good. Thank you for coming to hang out for a little while.
Yeah, for sure.
So the main occasion for my requesting to hang out for a little while is this new My Brightest Diamond record, Fight the Real Terror, which is out very soon, actually, September 13th on Western Vinyl. It is the first My Brightest Diamond record in quite a while, which is wild to me because I specifically remember playing the last one like on my way to work someday, and I've long not been at that job anymore. So it's like a time warp happening in my brain. But since, I mean, it's not that you haven't been busy since then, but it's the first My Brightest Diamond record in a while. So how are you feeling as we kind of anticipate this release? How are you feeling in these last few days?
I think this evaluation of what these last years have been for so many people, or for me in particular, when you start counting up those years and like, yeah, why has it been 5 years since you put out a record when I've put out a lot of choral music, had Grammy nominations and stuff for other
Yeah.
kinds of things that I was doing, but it was not, I wasn't ever afforded the time to make work for myself. And
Hmm.
so, because the way that I got through the pandemic was through grant based projects, I had to deliver on all of those commissions and grant based projects through trials and tribulations. And it was a full steam effort to do
Hmm.
that. So, it
Yeah.
wasn't until last summer that I had 3 weeks to really just sit down and focus on myself.
Yeah. And did you have ideas kind of circulating that you had ready to go for those 3 weeks, or was it very spontaneous?
I I had a kind of vague idea. I'd been more like thinking about what kind of timbres and colors I needed, and that the reality of the situation was that I needed to have a solo show. And
Hmm.
because all of my past records were really about the orchestrations, I had gotten so far away from what can you do with your own fingers,
Hmm.
that this was kind of a way of forcing myself into just the limitation of my hands.
Yeah. So I was going to ask that much later, but so that answers that question that this will be a solo show tour.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because yeah, for those who haven't heard the record yet, which most people, I mean, maybe by the time this is out, some people have, but it's a very, very sparse record. It is you and a guitar and sometimes some bass and some percussion, but that's really about it. Um, and I was curious how that would manifest in a live setting because yeah, My Brightest Diamond records, for as much as they're known about your vocals and your melodies, are almost always known for orchestrations and elaborate layers of instrumentation and production stylings. And so this is like a 180 from that. Um,
Exactly.
And so you went in with that mission statement in your mind then that it had to be this minimal. Is that fair to
Yes.
say? Okay.
Yeah. And so when you're working with minimalism, then I thought I've got to work with an engineer who can really get a timbre that if every timbre counts and you only have one thing, you know, you better make sure it's good. And so I was fortunate enough to be invited to work with Tom Schick at Wilco's studio.
Hmm.
And so I knew I had this date with Tom in the books, and then I was set to open for Wilco in the fall. And so I kind of knew, okay, all right, I'm got to get ready for that set, and what do I want to play? And then in that first week, the writing week, was when Sinead O'Connor passed. And
Okay.
so the things that I thought I was going to write about really completely changed.
So it was in that moment that the record shifted into what it is now.
Exactly.
Yeah, because like I know from reading like press release material that most people don't see that Sinead O'Connor did heavily influence this record. And I mean the first song on the record, the title track, starts off talking about someone passing away. I presume that's Sinead.
Yes. Hmm.
What is it about her work or her humanity that, or her presence that sort of moved and inspired you so much, both when she was alive and also when you got the news that she had passed?
When I was a teenager, I don't think I really understood at all what was going on with her.
Hmm.
And so it was only over time that I really began to see the price that she paid in standing up for racial justice. And I think that as a white person, the models for how do white people engage with racism, you're pretty hard pressed to find public, clear examples until you really start looking and say, oh, wait, look at this person's actions. Look at what this person did. Look at what this person did. And I think having those chosen ancestors rather than maybe the ones that are in your blood lineage where you say,
Hmm.
well, you're I'm not praying to you. I'm definitely not praying to you for
Yeah,
help
yeah.
unless you have repentance. I'm laughing and it's not funny.
That's why we're laughing.
Yeah.
So it was her voice then, like her, not her physical singing voice, but it was her strength of voice then that sort of appealed to you, and sort of reached out to you, right?
It takes tremendous courage
Yeah.
to do what she did and then to pay the price socially and be called crazy,
Hmm.
and to be so misunderstood.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she was someone who, I mean, she only had two records out when the Saturday Night Live thing happened, I believe.
Hmm.
Maybe three, but it was very early in her career and she was at a high, and she did that um now infamous, gesture of ripping up the picture of the Pope and saying what became what your title of your record is sort of a version of. She said, "Fight the real enemy." Um, and then you're right, was sort of scorned for the rest of her life.
Exactly.
And that must be, I mean, that's a lot to unpack and that's a lot to pack into 10 songs, but like what was it about her that you felt, okay, I need to make a record inspired by this woman? Was it just sort of that activism in her voice and in her work?
I feel that I had to, if that statement, fight the real enemy, was something that her whole life was pivoted by,
Yeah,
then I, as a female presenting musician, have an obligation to really ask what she was talking about. What does it
sure.
mean to fight? And where is the vulnerability? In that case, it was priests sexually abusing children. I
Hmm.
didn't want the record to be focused on a specific topic in that way. So I more had to look at generalities about power, about rebellion, about revolution, about where is it that you are avoiding your vulnerabilities by moving so far into activism. Where does that line between your personal internal work that you need to do and where do you need to be active in the world?
Mm.
So it's kind of toggling. I think the record is toggling between that question of the inner life and the outer life.
Yeah. And it's interesting you use the phrasing like pivoting around because there aren't that many, it doesn't feel like there's that many high level public figures who have just that one moment where there's a before something and an after something. And she's absolutely one of those people, where she was riding high and she was getting acclaim and she was getting lauding crowds, and then this one thing happened that she felt, and as you say, was so brave enough to speak up on something, and then the rest of her life is the other side of that coin. So,
I mean, Tina Turner, too, when you
mhm,
think about Tina's narrative, people used a single narrative for Tina for the whole of her life. And
yeah,
she kind of had to also figure out a way of dealing with that, which she did so magnificently.
yeah. No, I
But
mean,
yeah, it's an easier press story.
yeah, right,
Um,
right. But it is sort of, if you do zoom out, as you're saying, into these generalities, it's so like the record, it's not like people might see the headline that's going to probably go with a lot of coverage of this record, that it's about Sinead O'Connor. And it's not really about her, but her sort of fearlessness in taking to something that meant something to her and showing it to people in all of its truth and ugliness. Like, I feel like that's sort of a lot of the engine here.
yeah, it's asking, fight the real enemy. What is that fight to look like, and
Right,
who is the enemy?
right.
So it's a much more internal response, I think, to that question.
Yeah. Um, we mentioned it's quite spare. The first single that came out was "Have You Ever Seen an Angel?" Which I feel like, I mean, I've been listening to My Brightest Diamond for a very long time, since like high school years. I think maybe right before A Thousand Sharks Teeth came out. Um, and so I've my point being that I have been paying attention to your work for a while, and this is, I think, by far the sparest single we've ever had from you. And this
For
was
sure.
right. I mean, I'm thinking of past singles like Golden Star and like, really bombastic things. And then we get this new one. And I, at that point, had not heard the record. I had not read anything on the record. I just heard the single and I was like, wow, this is so stripped back.
Yeah.
Um, what is okay? So with this song, I guess I'm curious what this song specifically is navigating for you, but then also how did you sort of think it was a good way into the record?
To be honest, it was a shock. It was not the first intended single.
Hmm.
And we made a video for Fight the Real Terror that was supposed to come out July 26th, the day that Sinead transitioned. And there were a lot of problems with the video, and we couldn't get it done in time. And
Hmm.
then I was at a residency in at Guild Hall this summer, and by some just incredible kismet moment, Andrew Andre Jacques and Dwight Casson were like, "Hey, let's make a video." And Andrew said, "I really like this Angel song." And so we were in this incredible garden and we made this video in 3 hours.
Hmm.
And it was just, to me, the way that they made the video elevated the song, and it made me appreciate it in a different way. And so the record label said, okay, let's go ahead and move forward with that,
Hmm.
since we have a strong visual that's going with it. So it was a surprise, and I liked. There've been so many moments where when I was so many moments that are almost unexplainable like that, where I do feel like I'm being helped.
Hmm.
And when Sinead passed last year, the electricity went out for 3 days, about 2 hours after I found out.
Hmm.
And I was weeping on my couch, charging my phone on my car, couldn't sing, couldn't sing. Finally, on the third day, I opened my mouth and sang for about 2 minutes straight. And as soon as I finished singing at the top of my lungs, the electricity came on like that. And as we were going to make the video for Fight the Real Terror, I'm doing these drawings, and I drew Sinead's face with the representation of the tears from her famous video, Nothing Compares to You. And I moved my pop can, my sparkling water, over the paper. And right as I did, a water drop fell onto the paper and created a tear
Hmm.
on the paper. And it was like just all these kind of crazy little moments that are coincidence, but I'm just trusting it
Right.
and just saying, just go with it. Just feel that you're getting help, and that if that feeling makes me take the next step, then I will prefer to believe that I'm getting help.
From somewhere, from the beyond. Um, so then what is the
Mm-hmm.
song? So then what is the song navigating for you, like lyrically? Like what is the song touching on for you?
I think it's certainly a song about grief. It's certainly a song about being at some of my very lowest points. And I think feeling a sense of connectedness to the unseen, and not being able to draw conclusions or to say, to stand in belief, but more so that my response to life is Gloria,
Hmm.
that my response is wonder, rather than I can be in grief and be in loss and also give thanks without having to attach myself to kind of concretizing in a belief.
Okay, yeah.
I don't have to be overly identified with a belief.
They can coexist, and
I can
there's
coexist in curiosity and
right,
wonder and
right.
and in not knowing, but in feeling there is something bigger than me. And when I'm in that moment of desperation, of course I've had moments of desperation, and there ain't nothing stirring the water. There ain't no leaf blowing to give you a comfort. And
Yeah,
I've been there too.
yeah. Hmm.
But I think even in those moments, I want my voice to be singing, thank you for being alive. Thank you for just thanks.
Do you mean thank you for being alive, like to your own self? Like thank you, body, for being alive?
Thank you. Isn't it wonderful that
Hmm.
Jupiter is there taking all the asteroids so that we don't get hit? Isn't it wonderful and an awe making that the moon is there, and without the moon, we'd be screwed?
Hmm.
Like thinking about, just what is it in the universe that brings you to wonder?
Hmm.
To me, that's the exhalation of the Gloria.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
I
death
do like that,
death
yeah.
is death is sort of like the crux of that, because as you experience death, it brings you to this, you know point that you kind of have to, any death, it can be a divorce, it can be death of an idea, death of a hope, death of a loved one.
Hmm.
Those, it always brings you to your knees.
Yeah. But there is also wonder to be had still.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a pretty fitting mantra for the era that we're in. It's certainly not the easiest quest these days to find wonder,
Hmm.
or to acknowledge that wonder exists. Um, not to get too tangential, but I know you're very uh, active politically and engaged, and with the
Yeah, I
world, with
believe
the
in human rights.
yeah. How dare you?
How dare I believe in human rights? I guess I'm political.
Right. I know. I guess what I really mean is that you're very vocal about
Yes, I am.
the
I
woes of the
am.
world and the woes of not only this country but of the world itself. And it can be hard to find wonder. Um, but they do coexist. So
They do.
I like
They
that idea.
do. I
Mm,
have I have pen pals in Iran, and as I'm talking with my pen pal, she reminds me light and dark are happening at the same time. And,
mhm.
for her to say that to me
Right.
is a really different thing than if it comes out of my mouth.
Right. Yeah, it's all contextual.
Mm.
Mm. Um, So one of my favorite songs on the record, I've only gotten to listen to it twice through, but on those two listens, one of my favorite songs is Sublime,
Mm.
which I did read through. I was sent a little track by track thing, and I read through it just because I was curious. I'm always curious when those kinds of things are made available, like what's being said about it that maybe I wasn't bringing to it, or whatever. And one of the things that was said about Sublime, I have it written down here, was that it's a song about leaving one's family religion. Um, do you mean that is that literal, like leaving a religion, or is it the religion of family?
I grew up in a very Pentecostal evangelical family. My family's been pastors for generations.
Mm,
And so the culture of the family is very rooted in American evangelicalism. And so as I've dissected and looked at the history of that, I do mean the leaving, because I don't think that we can look at colonialism and the way that colonialism and Christianity was used in this country as a aggressively. And so just as I've begun kind of digging into that journey, it's like, what am I going to keep and what am I leaving behind?
yeah.
And so those things are really, really hard to write songs about. And so songs like Shape, on This Is My Hand,
Mm,
when I tap into these kind of deeper spiritual journeys, that the language tends to get broader and tends to get more vague and kind of like, what's she talking about? But I think it's because it's the ineffable, is that the word I'm looking for?
sure. Yeah.
Like the unnameable
Right.
thing, and trying to get to mysticism in my own way without
Yeah.
being falling into any cliche.
Yeah. Is that is that something that you've sort of personally struggled with, that sort of tension between different belief systems and the one that you kind of grew up surrounded by?
Oh, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I mean, it's my heritage.
Yeah.
So it's the way my family communicates. And so, I really have been deeply steeped, and then have had many crises of belief through art making. It's
Hmm.
actually art making that has challenged me and provoked me so much that it's music. It's making work with Matthew Barney,
Mm.
making River of Fundament with Matthew just absolutely pivoted my life. I could no longer be the same after having worked with him.
Mm.
And once you start asking a lot of questions and interrogating things, you have to come up with, you have to sit with yourself. And so I think music, being open to asking the questions has changed me.
Yeah. And maybe sort of being okay that with the fact that you're likely not going to get a concrete answer either, you know.
And then I think I have to have a practice, even if I don't have an answer.
Right. Right. It's
I
the
better have a
exploring.
practice.
Yeah. Um, the other specific song I wanted to call on for this conversation was the closer. I saw a glimpse. I know I read that the sequencing of this record is pretty much the order in which they were written. Is that true?
Yes, almost exactly.
Okay, because I saw a glimpse feels like a closer.
Yeah, I did. I
Um,
wrote it on Sunday morning and I drove to Chicago that afternoon. So
wow, okay.
that morning I saw a glimpse and I recorded Have You Ever Seen an Angel? Both the morning that I drove to Chicago
Okay. Wow.
to work with Tom Schick. So
This is
it
real.
was
This is
very much,
really by the seat of your pants here.
it was so down to the wire.
Yeah. But that's you can kind of hear that, but not in a like shoddy, like bad way. I mean, there's like an urgency to this record. Like there's an immediacy to this record. The fact that it's not over orchestrated, I think, speaks to that as well. Um,
You should have
so
seen my face when Tom said we're not re-recording this.
yeah.
I was like, and I was like, well, can I bring in my drummer, Earl? Can I bring in my drummer? And he was just like, no.
Oh wow. So you didn't know he was going to go that way.
I did
Yeah.
not know.
That's so funny. So, but so
But then I thought I produced all the records myself. I came to Tom Schick. So if I'm
right,
not going to listen to him when
right,
I came to him for his opinion, that's not like you trust him.
right.
So trust him, which means I'm going to, even though it's uncomfortable for me, I'm going to follow what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get back to the closer in a moment, but so this record was always minimal.
Yes.
You just were intending to re-record it in a proper way, quote unquote.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Not in this little tiny room with my,
So the room I'm looking at is where this album was recorded.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, that must have been a little scary because it's like even though the version you had in your head was simply a more maybe polished sounding but also still stripped down record,
Hmm.
the fact that what we're hearing is almost entirely just your demos,
Yeah.
right? Like that must have left you feeling pretty naked and vulnerable.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
There are terrors of many kinds.
Yeah. You are also fighting this terror. Um, yeah,
It might be a lighter it's a not might be, it's
sure,
a
sure,
much
sure.
different
Yeah.
use of that word, but
Yeah, for sure. But it's kind of like if someone looked at your phone and started playing all of your voice memos of all the stray ideas that you had. That's not something you want to have.
when
Um,
I came up, I I was told you're just a girl, you don't know nothing.
mm,
I there were no female composers. So in 1992, when I went to college, it was not even considered that there were female composers.
mm,
So I studied music and I was hanging with all the boy bands and learning engineering just from watching, learning guitar from watching. And so I think this, it's a known fact that when a female presenting person walks into a music store, they are going to talk to the guy I brought in, even if he's not a musician and doesn't know anything. So I continually have to assert myself in terms of what I'm capable of as an orchestrator or as a mind. And so I think that by having orchestration be so much to the fore, it's really a defense mechanism. As much as
right.
it is a wonderful use of my imagination, it also has really been motivated by people like me not feeling like I'm enough.
Mm.
And and so I think that's it's it's me really trying to aggressively get okay without having to prove, you know, with all the bells and whistles, and just be like, it's enough for you to just
Right.
stand there and sing.
Right. For sure.
And I tried to write my ass off.
Yeah. And, you know, the orchestration and the bells and whistles being this defense mechanism that's fully now gone. Um, what you're left with is, on its face, something that I think the typical sort of misogynistic music machine would call more traditionally female, the woman in the guitar. But
Exactly.
but you're using an electric guitar for the most part, which isn't not traditionally female, and that guy in the guitar store is gonna go to the other man and be like, "Here, you want this one?" Um,
And I'm secretly using odd time signatures so that anybody that's paying attention will be like, oh, wait, is that in 12/8? Oh, yeah.
mhm,
Wait, what time signature is that in?
right,
Oh,
right.
that's 2/3, like, but in this funky way. Oh, this one is 4 + 3 + 3 + 2.
Mm,
Okay. So for the nerds out there,
yeah,
I still gave them something.
yeah, we appreciate it. Uh, but there's like there aren't that many um female guitar singer-songwriters who use electric guitar. It's pretty few and far between, especially when it's only voice and guitar. And when
Mm.
I was listening to the record, I was thinking of like PJ Harvey's 4-track demos
Mm-hmm.
and Scout Niblett's earlier work where she just
Mm-hmm.
uses electric guitar, space, and her voice.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
those were kind of the elements here, like this very raw nerve kind of recording, which is probably because they're demos and you weren't expecting quite this much rawness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I
No,
guess,
the PJ Harvey demos were really important to me
mm, like you mean for this record or just in your life?
in my life, but I think just the visceral,
Mm,
uh, that visceral feeling that she got in those was
yeah,
so compelling.
yeah. And it's been cool listening to all of her demos that she re-released over the past couple of years, like that kind of stuff. You don't hear that a lot. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
Um, so this closer, anyway, really quickly, I was struck by it because I first listened to the record in my car, so I couldn't look at anything while I was listening. I was just driving. And I was like, this has got to be some Appalachian traditional folk song. And it's not, is it?
no, that's
But
coming from my DNA.
right. But there is this melody to it, the way you sing it, even the way it's sung and the way it's performed on the guitar, the really long held notes. There's something very ancient sounding about it. And I read in the press notes that you were almost worried that you had accidentally kind of incorporated some old folk song. You didn't realize you had done that. Where did
I
this song
had to,
come from?
I had to call up Sam Amadon, my friend,
Mm,
who's just a library of
right.
Appalachian music, and I said, Sam, will you listen to this? I I wrote it, and I wrote it almost about the amount of time that it takes to sing it. I mean, it was one of those that just came really,
Yeah,
really, really fast.
yeah.
And I said, Sam, do you know this song? Did I steal? And I didn't know it. And Sam said, no. He said,
Okay.
it sounds like you. And
All
so
right.
I said, okay. But I think those are those moments where that DNA shows up,
Yeah.
and coming from the Southern roots that I have, and
Hmm.
from, the British Isles, from Cork, the Scots that are in my DNA. I've had singers in for generations, so I
Right.
think that it just shows up.
Yeah. I just picture a woman on top of a mountain singing into the canyon.
Well, and in that also, the last year there were the anti-trans laws, anti-cross-dressing laws that were, I was very upset about,
Hmm.
and the the ridiculousness that gender has to be performed according to a social norm is just absurd. And it's like, well, what about the hairband people from the 80s? What about if I feel like putting on a mustache today? Like, it's
Yeah.
just like, where are the lines that you're drawing, and how do you draw them, and who's drawing them?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was this, I'm gonna love you tonight, but baby, we got to get up in the morning and fight.
Mm. Yeah.
And that feeling is very, very clear
Yeah.
inside of me. And so I think that's why it comes out that
Yeah.
way. And certainly it's an homage to all of the a cappella singing that Sinead did.
Yeah, because it isn't a cappella, but there's so much space that
Mm-hmm.
it's reminiscent of that kind of singing. So yeah. Which, the infamous War performance was a cappella. So I would imagine that was maybe a touchstone as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you, before we move on a bit, what do you kind of hope, maybe more than anything, that people hear in this record?
For me, Safe House is really the center um, of what I want to create for
Mm,
myself and for the world, which is, can we, in either a personal relationship or in a global relationship, make a safe space? And if we have to write new rules, if we have to change the way we're doing business, let's change it.
yeah.
And there's a lot to even understand the complexity of the world that we're in and to analyze it. But then how do we dream the new world? How do
Mm,
we dream new relationships? And so that for me is the centerpiece, and where our heartache lies as human beings is in, we have dominating partners, or we're part of being a dominator and we don't want to be,
right.
but we're caught in this family system or a societal system that's harmful. And
Mm.
how do we stop the harm?
So
So
it's kind of here's where we are. How do we and where do we need to go now, and how do we get there?
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that in order for us to do that, we have to have a long-term vision, and that means, how do I keep how do I not burn out? How do I
Mm,
not, say, I blazed all my energy out, and now I've got to take 2 years away from the social life,
right.
because I've exhausted myself, or I've, you know, been canceled so many times, or
Well, it's also so easy to get exhausted these days because, it's hard to bear witness to so much of what's going on both here and abroad, and still feel like you have the energy to trek ahead. Um and to do so with immense empathy and compassion, because otherwise it's not going to work.
thank God we have music.
Mm, agreed.
Because music gives you that energy. It's just incredible that
Yeah.
music exists at all to lift us when we don't feel it, and it
Yeah.
can help you. I mean, I'm so grateful to be a musician, and we all are musicians. If we take the time to be,
Yeah.
have the courage to open our voices or to clap our hands,
Yeah.
or whatever sound you can make, or with whatever capacity you have.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hold on to the power of music to truly be a revolution.
And before we leave this record, I did have a note for myself to mention, and I might be projecting here, but the sparseness of this record really did remind me of like your early work on like the Arai records,
Oh, yeah.
which I only know about because of illegal file sharing from when I was in high school. Um, but I remember finding those and being like, wow, yeah, this is like proto My Brightest Diamond. And now I'm listening to this record. I'm like, oh my God, it's like bringing me back to the start almost.
Exactly. Yeah,
Because
totally.
I would
Because at
imagine
that
those records.
time it was me at the coffee shop.
Yeah. Not to embarrass you, just all right.
Yep.
So shifting gears into something much, I think, happier. You are I'd be remiss getting a chance to speak with you now at this juncture, late August 2024, and not mention that you just came off motherfucking Broadway. Yeah.
Broadway.
You just did a stint on Broadway with the Illinois show. Uh Big general question you can't probably answer, but how was that?
Wow. It that cast was
Mm,
tremendous.
yeah.
I've never experienced a feeling of belonging as I have with that group of people. They were just the most warm, loving
Mm,
group. And that helped me be able to deal with really, really hard things that also came as part of being in that show.
yeah.
So it was really, it was a dream, a child's dream come true. And I also, you know, was singing about really, really hard things. And
Hmm.
so that was not an easy feat.
Yeah.
But it was definitely very special to be in the house of Oklahoma and King and I
Mm.
spam a lot. It was amazing to be in
Yeah.
that room and to perform every
Yeah.
night.
Yeah, and you were on the original album.
Yes.
So how early on were you involved with the stage show?
Once they got the musicians in June of 23,
Mm.
so I had just come off of a month of those rehearsals and then went almost, not quite immediately, but by July 26th, then I was writing my record. So,
Okay. So you were in the stage show pretty early, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, we
Okay.
did a month at Bard
Okay.
College in upstate New York
Right.
in the summer, and that was the first, I think, musical iteration. But I think the dance element had been going on for 2 years.
Oh wow.
It's been a very long held dream of
Yeah.
Justin's to do that music.
What was it? I mean, you've performed this music before, but what was it like doing it now in this time, in this setting? Like, did it feel new? Did it feel different for you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you separate music from a personality, which is to say Sufjan as the storyteller of that
Hmm.
music, and to move from being a background singer where you're watching every lip move and every teeth, you know, move to try to really match somebody exactly.
Yeah.
It's a very different role to becoming a lead singer. And at the same time, I wanted to hold the style and to hold the memory that people have associated with the style of his
Right.
phrasing. And even when I was singing lead, trying my best to maintain that style.
Yeah. Were you scared to sing it in Broadway? Because you've performed a lot.
No, I wasn't scared. I was at home.
Nice. That's nice.
It was music I know very deeply.
Right.
So it wasn't scary. It was more about how do I be authentic and not lose myself in the emotion and stay on the side of being a little bit the storyteller instead of being
Yeah.
quite so. I mean, John Wayne Gacy and This Year's Tower were more of my features, and Zombies as well, which was really about the oppression of women,
Mm.
and John Wayne Gacy being a mass murderer, and then there was a suicide in Sears Tower. So all three of those were extremely difficult to be in every night and not kind of lose control.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to go to the higher vision
Right.
rather than being totally inside of the story as an actor.
Yeah, I think people forget, or maybe before the show forgot, how heavy a lot of that album is.
Oh yeah,
Because there's such joy in a lot of Sufjan's work, but if you really look in, there's a lot of heaviness there.
it was a lot of exploration of death, and he was masking it in a sense through this major chords and
Hmm.
but but yeah, the content, it was a lot of sorrow.
Yeah, I think that's why for some people, when an album like Carrie and Lowell comes out, and it's almost like what happened with Fight the Real Terror. It's like we're stripping away all the extra, and we're just going to leave the core. And people sometimes are like, "Oh, whoa," like kind of startled and taken aback by it. But the heaviness was always there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I mean, you've worked with Sufjan a few times. How long? When did you meet him?
In the early 2000s, so I toured Michigan with him, but he'd already recorded Michigan. And
Mm,
so I toured Michigan, and then we made Illinois and toured that. And then I worked a little bit on Age of Odds. But
yeah.
I didn't tour it with him anymore because I think I think that as a background singer, or as a support person, you have to make a decision that you're gonna stop supporting other people
Mhm.
and commit to your own
Sure.
practice. And so by the time Age of Odds came around, I just was like, I gotta, I can't just be a gunslinger.
Yeah. And that, I mean, I could be fudging up dates, but that was right before This Is My Hand. Is that correct? It's a big question.
You're probably right.
I hope I'm right, because otherwise I'm gonna be wrong. I don't want to be wrong. Um, so yes, I mean, you've worked with him on a few tours, a couple records. So yeah, I mean, this show,
Well, and all four of my albums were the first four records were on his record label.
that's
So
that's true. That's true. So
there
even
was
from a
a
business
lot
standpoint,
of,
yeah,
yeah, a lot of
yeah,
kinship.
yeah. So yeah, then I guess it makes sense then that being in this show feels like a homecoming in a sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was able to care for my friends' music, to
Hmm.
care for music that I've invested so much in. I put I loved making that record.
Yeah.
So it felt good to kind of own my part in the making of it.
Yeah. And I don't need any details, but I hope, is he doing okay these days?
He's he's walking, which
Okay.
is great.
Okay. I know he's very
And
private.
yeah, but I think, it was I think we've all been very concerned that he recover, and
Yeah.
losing the ability to walk was really, really scary. And
Yeah.
but he's making music, and I think that's the exciting thing is, finding your happy place at whatever capacity you're at.
Yeah.
And that's his happy place, and I'm glad that he's back to making music.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah. He's a very private person, but he did sort of shockingly let us all in on this journey a little bit. So we just
Yeah.
we just want him to be well.
Yes.
Of course we want him to be well. Um, so to wrap up, so this tour, you're going to be solo, you're going to be alone. You haven't really done that in a long time. Is that correct?
No, just opening for Wilco.
Right.
I've done a couple of opening slots like that,
But not like a
which is really
headlining
fun.
tour.
I No, but not
Yeah.
like a headlining
Yeah.
tour. So,
Do you
woo,
think,
I'm
yeah.
shaking, but it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah. Is this gonna be are you gonna use this as a chance to maybe like reinvent some of your older material, or like dust off older songs that you haven't played in a while? Like, how do you kind of come at a show where you can call all the shots? You don't have to worry about other players knowing how to play it.
So much of that stuff, it was written straight from my head into the computer.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that stuff is really impossible. It would take me so much time to reorchestrate some of
Hmm.
that stuff, then I could just write 6 new records in the amount of time it would take me to figure
Yeah.
out how to play some. And
Yeah.
I don't care enough about recycling material like that.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I still try to give people the dopamine of the past, but I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time uh, re, trying to figure out songs like Pressure. It's like I'll just play a backing track because
Yeah.
I'd rather jump around and dance a little bit
Yeah.
than to try to tie myself to an octopus pad and have all
Well,
my limbs going and
yeah, because you have a few songs like Pressure that I think, could that even be done with just you and a guitar?
oh no. No.
No, there's not
I
really a
mean, not with,
version.
no, I don't, I could be with a great guitar player, or I don't know, but
Yeah. That's, I
not by
mean,
me.
yeah, that's all right. Who cares?
I don't know. Now
Um,
you're provoking me.
oh
Now I'm gonna
geez.
go learn how to play it on guitar.
I know. I
But
was I was trying to think in the moment just now what I think your like hardest song to learn as a true solo version would be. Pressure would be up there.
Pressure's, yeah, that's,
Pressure's pretty ornate and there's sections and there's like changes. So it's like that one would be tough. Um, but I don't know. I remember well because I remember I saw
well,
you.
this is my hand too. It's da na 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 dee doo doo dee dee da boo doo doo da
Mm,
dee boo doo dee da. I don't have chops like that.
yeah, you could do a
Um,
keyboard maybe. I don't know. But
Keyboards maybe I could do,
maybe.
but it's, yeah.
Because I saw
Again,
you.
too much practice time.
Yeah, seriously. And your tour starts pretty soon, so
Yeah.
um I saw you only one time, regrettably, but it was I think it was when A Thousand Sharks Teeth was coming out and you were in Connecticut where I am. Um Probably maybe the only time you've played Connecticut. I could be wrong there. And you were talking about how it had been a strings only record,
Hmm.
right at first. Which, just another album of yours that kind of got sort of like changed almost, and once you kind of landed on your vision. Um, and when I saw you, I think you had string players,
Hmm.
but
Yeah, it was the Claire and the Reasons tour.
okay. I don't
Yeah.
remember that, but okay. Um, and so it was you and guitar and then some string players, and like that was it. So that even that felt pretty spare.
Yeah.
Um, but you had a little bit of orchestration you could do with string players. Now you're just going to be up there alone in the wind.
I think that, times have changed and that
Hmm.
kind of decadence is not really afforded um, to me right now. And I think you can get really frustrated by how touring is changing for a lot of people.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of things about the music industry with Ticketmaster, extra fees, and the way that musicians are just kind of extracted from. Certainly, the Spotify rules changing. Like there's a lot of extraction that's happening, and I think that there's a place for that frustration, and I certainly think we need to keep asking those questions about how do we pay for amazing musicians to be, you know, able to do what they're trained their whole life to do.
Right.
Um, and at the same time, I am determined to adapt to the time as and let nothing outside of me stop me from making music. So if that means that I have to work inside of a certain economy or given parameters, then yes, my imagination longs to do more. But I think that my challenge is always to look at where is my agency and what do I have control over, and then let me come back to that and then take a next step.
Yeah. Yeah. Trying to adapting. Yeah. I like that.
Because it puts the locus of control inside of myself rather than the big bad music industry or
Right,
the big bad people don't buy or support music anymore.
right,
Okay, yes to all of that. And also, I'm still gonna make what is possible for me,
right.
and that's how I feel alive.
Yeah, that's good. I think it'd be easy. It must be the easier route in some ways to just sort of bow to that. But you got to keep creating if it's what is driving you, you know, got to keep going.
Yeah, and everything ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
And with gas prices or all different prices, things going up and down, and you know, yeah, we just got to keep finding our agency and take the next small step.
Yeah. Well, the new album, I think, is one of those little steps that we can take, just creating with compassion and with vigor. I don't know how else to say it.
Rocket in My Pocket is like about small actions having big consequences.
Right.
So
And they sure do.
it's, yeah.
I mean, I'm an English teacher and I'm a high school English teacher. And today we just talked about like, can one person change a whole society and the ways in which maybe they need help and the ways in which they can do something by themselves. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there's gradation there. So all right. So the new album, Fight the Real Terror, is out September 13th on Western Vinyl, and you will be heading out on tour quite soon. So check out the record, check out the live show. Before we leave, I do quickly want to say, since I have you here, that you are responsible for what I think is maybe the best takeaway show that has ever been done. Um,
Oh,
it's I have never loved someone, and it's it's you. I mean, you probably know what I'm talking about. It is you in like a cafe, and you're singing, and like strangers are crying, and it's just it's so beautiful. Um,
oh. Well,
so
it's also because the film team, La Blagotech, they were also so vulnerable, and by
yeah.
them being so open and so professional, they were able to allow that performance to come through
Hmm.
because love was happening between us. And I
Yeah.
think that those kinds of things happen because of everybody in the room.
Yeah.
And so I'm indebted to them for that, for always.
Well, then I'm grateful to all of you. So, all
I'll
right.
tell them.
Okay. All right. So, Fight the Real Terror out September 13th. Thank you so much, Shara. This has been such a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.